Going on, Matt Savoca here from Awesemo.com, bringing you the Week 18 Sunday Night Football DraftKings Contenders video, the final game of the regular season for this 2021, now 2022 regular season. Chargers versus Raiders, a game that could absolutely have huge playoffs implications here, and plus the AFC West divisional rivalry as well. Before we get into this one, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter, that would be much appreciated as well. We'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is offering player props contests for all major sports and some minor sports as well. If you've got niche sport knowledge, you definitely want to go over to Prize Picks so you can flex your muscle over there. They've got all sorts of player props contests, and when you use promo code Awesemo, you can get up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. It doesn't end there though. Go to awesemo.com/prizepicks-promo and you can get a month free of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up using that website. Okay, on the screen, you see my 10 through 6 of my top plays for this week, for this Sunday night. Bryan Edwards comes in at number 10 in 23% of the optimal lineups, and some games he's just running wind sprints out there. But when you got a high snap share and it's a one-game slate, you can play him. Bryan Edwards is fine, just not exciting. Kind of the same thing with Foster Moreau, but at least Moreau has had a high target ceiling at some points this season. Moreau is much more preferred, though he's only in the optimal lineup 24% of the time, slightly ahead of Bryan Edwards. That's tied with Jared Cook, the tight end on the other side of the field. Probably a 7, maybe 8 target ceiling for Jared Cook, but he's used often in the red zone enough where he's popping in some simulations. 24% chance of being in the optimal lineup as well. Then there's Mike Williams. We thought Mike Williams was on his way to a true wide receiver 1 season. He had a 16 target game against Cleveland. He even had a 9 target game a couple weeks ago. It looked good for Mike Williams, but the volatility of opportunity is what keeps him out of the optimal lineup all that often, just 38% of the time. And then the most surprising, and yes, salary is definitely a consideration, but really a quarterback on a 1-game slate outside of the top 5, a very, very interesting moment for the simulations here. Derek Carr is still scoring 30 plus fantasy points 18% of the time, but he has a low floor here, under 10 fantasy points 17% of the time, still showing up as an optimal captain, optimal captain play 10% of the time, and a third of the time he's an optimal flex, but at 41% of the time in the optimal lineup, he is not quite in the top 5. Who makes it? Let's watch and find out. Number 5, it's Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders, should have this backfield all to himself, and the Chargers have struggled against the run all season long. They are bottom 10 in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing offenses and below average in PFF's team defensive grades. You can see on the screen there, they're ranked 24th. And the Raiders, though they're a little bit below average, they are better than 24th. They're 18th, so they could actually have an offensive advantage here on their side of the ball. And if so, Jacobs will be used heavily. He had 30 opportunities 2 weeks ago and over 20 opportunities last week as well. I think you really have a 20 opportunity floor for Jacobs here and a median projection of over 18 points. So not surprised to see him scoring over 30 fantasy points nearly 14% of the time. And while he does score under 10, 13% of the time, really not surprised to see him showing up as an optimal captain 10% of the time and nearly a third of the time showing up as an optimal flex. Josh Jacobs showing up in the optimal lineups more than Derek Carr 42% of the time. At number 4, Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow has had an excellent season. 9 targets last week, and that is a bounce back from kind of 2 down weeks in a row. 3 targets the week before that, 5 targets the week before that. It's a far cry from the 14 targets he saw in week 14 and 10 in week 13. I'd say he definitely has a double-digit target ceiling, but I wonder if the Chargers secondary kind of sells out to stop Hunter Renfrow here. It's very, very possible, but still, the secondary of the Chargers has not been overall impressive this season. They're about league average against wide receivers. So you're seeing Hunter Renfrow pop in a ton of our simulations here. Over 25% of our sims have him scoring over 30 fantasy points and he's scoring under 10% of the time. That's fantastic. Under 10 fantasy points, under 10% of the time for a wide receiver, and you're only talking about 8,400. That is fantastic. A 20-point median projection for Hunter Renfrow. He's in the optimal lineup 45% of the time. Number 3, Keenan Allen, the wide receiver that is the target hog for the Los Angeles Chargers here, and they're favored. This game has a pretty high total as well, so you think the touchdown upside is pretty good for Keenan Allen. He's actually 5th in the NFL in red zone targets, so his 6 touchdowns, 16th among wide receivers. I actually think he's still a slight positive regression candidate in terms of scoring touchdowns. Doesn't mean he'll definitely get one here. I just mean that overall, I think he could bounce back towards the mean. And that's why we're seeing 30% of the time, he's scoring 30 fantasy points. He can be a target hog, sure, all he wants, maybe 10, maybe 15 targets as an absolute ceiling, but he's got to score twice to get 30 fantasy points. I'm glad it is occurring in some of our simulations. Doesn't quite have the floor score that Hunter Renfrow had. He's scoring under 10 fantasy points 14% of the time, but still the median projection compared to salary and that slight boost in ceiling probability gives Keenan Allen the edge over Hunter Renfrow. He's in the optimal lineup 46% of the time. At number 2, Austin Ekeler, running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, the do-it-all player for the Chargers. He's number 1 in the NFL in total receiving yards among all running backs, number 2 in red zone touches. He's number 11 in yards per route run, so even though he gets all of that opportunity, he stays efficient and elusive, just like we've always seen. He's number 3 in the NFL in yards created. So you're talking about 20 opportunities for a player that's favored, or on a team that's favored by 3 points in a game that has a nearly 50-point total, and we know how talented Ekeler is in a vacuum. I'm always betting on Austin Ekeler if I possibly can. I know the salary is high, $11,600. He looks like a slightly better play on DraftKings this week than on FanDuel. Not to say that there isn't a high probability of him just going off and breaking the slate anyway, regardless of what you had to pay in salary to get there. 38% of the time, he's scoring 30 DraftKings points or more, a really solid 21.9 fantasy point median projection. That is plenty high when you're talking about considering an 11,600 player. The optimal captain 13% of the time, and 36% of the time he's an optimal flex play. He has a coin flip chance, 49% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Before I reveal my final play, my number 1 play on DraftKings for this Sunday Night Football slate, I do want to remind you guys, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. It's week 18. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. Also want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, Prize Picks, one more time. Use promo code Awesemo for up to a $100 first match deposit bonus, and learn how you can get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you go to awesemo.com/prizepicks-promo. That's awesemo.com/prizepicks-promo. Okay, guys, let's get into the number 1 play on DraftKings for this Sunday Night Football slate. Number 1, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is the safest player on the slate by far, over a 40% chance to score 30 fantasy points. He's got a 23.9 fantasy point median projection. And honestly, I think these simulations are being generous to players that are not Justin Herbert, because personally, I think that Herbert has a much higher percentage chance than the 53% that our simulations list this round of sims. He's 3rd in the NFL in total expected points added. He's 3rd in total QBR. He's 3rd in deep ball completion percentage. He's 6th in play action completion percentage. He's 9th in adjusted yards per attempt. Any way you slice it, he's a top 5, maybe top 10 quarterback in the NFL. It's amazing that he is as young as he is. He is playing so incredibly well, and he's leading the Chargers to a top 10 PFF team offensive grade. They have a distinct advantage over the middling, if not bad, Las Vegas defense here, and Herbert will get there so many different ways. He has a 90-yard rushing game this year. He's at a game where he has had over 30 yards rushing on top of that, so he can get there that way as well. Justin Herbert, the best combination of floor and ceiling on the slate. 11,400 is not too much to pay. 53% of the time he's showing up in the optimal lineup and is our number 1 play on DraftKings. And that is going to do it for this week's edition of the Sunday Night Football DraftKings Contenders video, the final video for the 2021-2022 NFL season. Wow, this went really, really fast. It's been really fun doing these videos for you guys, but we're going to have all the playoff NFL content you could possibly want over at Awesemo.com and right here on the YouTube channel. Speaking of the YouTube channel, if you're looking for the FanDuel version of this video, it's around here somewhere. Go and check it out. Until all that good playoff content, I'm Matt Savoca from Awesemo.com. We'll talk to you guys next time.